A CEO kept a black man waiting for 5 hours and went pale upon realizing he was a billion-dollar client. The CEO had already walked past the black man 4 times when her chief financial officer whispered the words that drained every trace of color from her face. That man in the lobby is Marcus Reed. Evelyn Cross stopped so suddenly that the executives behind her nearly collided with one another. Through the glass wall of the 42nd floor reception area, she could see him sitting exactly where he had been sitting since 9 that morning. His charcoal coat was folded neatly across his lap. A leather portfolio rested beside him. A paper cup of water stood untouched on the marble table. He had been waiting for 5 hours. Evelyn stared at him, then turned slowly toward her assistant. "Marcus Reed," she repeated. The assistant's lips parted, but no answer came. Everyone in the room knew the name. Marcus Reed was the founder and majority owner of Reed Meridian Capital, the private infrastructure fund preparing to award a contract worth more than $1 billion. The contract Evelyn's company desperately needed. The contract she had spent 6 months chasing. The contract that could save 3,000 jobs. And the man who controlled it had been left alone in her lobby while junior employees stepped around him, receptionists questioned him, and security asked twice whether he was delivering something. Evelyn looked back through the glass. Marcus lifted his eyes. Their gazes met. He did not smile. 5 hours earlier, the lobby of Cross Atlantic Development had gleamed beneath pale winter sunlight. The building had been designed to make visitors feel small before they ever met anyone important. 42 stories of blue glass rose above downtown Chicago. The entrance smelled faintly of polished stone, expensive coffee, and the cold metallic air that slipped in whenever the revolving doors turned. Employees crossed the lobby in dark suits, their shoes clicking across the marble in quick, confident rhythms. Marcus Reed entered at 8:47 a.m. He was 51 years old, tall, broad-shouldered, and dressed in a simple navy suit without a visible designer label. A silver watch rested beneath his sleeve. His shoes were clean, but not new. His only piece of jewelry was a plain wedding band he still wore 3 years after his wife's death. He approached the reception desk and offered a polite nod. "Good morning. I have a 9 o'clock meeting with Ms. Evelyn Cross." The receptionist looked up from her monitor. Her nameplate read Madison Cole. Madison's eyes moved from Marcus's face to his suit, then to the leather portfolio in his hand. "Company, Reed Meridian." Her fingers paused above the keyboard. "Are you with maintenance, consulting, or deliveries?" Marcus studied her for a moment. "None of those." Madison gave a small, practiced smile. "I need the name of the person you're meeting." "Evelyn Cross." The smile weakened. "Ms. Cross doesn't usually take unscheduled meetings." "It is scheduled." "Under what name?" "Marcus Reed." Madison typed slowly. Her brow tightened. "I don't see you." Marcus reached into his portfolio and placed a printed confirmation email on the desk. Madison glanced at it, but did not pick it up. "It may have been canceled." "I received no cancellation. Sometimes executive meetings change at the last minute." "I understand." He did not raise his voice. He did not lean across the desk. He did not use his title. That seemed to unsettle her more than anger would have. Madison clicked through several screens. "Please take a seat." Marcus turned toward the waiting area. There were 8 cream-colored chairs arranged around a marble table beneath an abstract painting that looked like fractured ice. He chose the chair nearest the window. At 9:03, Madison called Evelyn's executive floor. "Hi, this is front reception. There's a man here claiming he has a meeting with Ms. Cross." She lowered her voice. "Yes, Marcus Reed." "No, I don't think it's that Marcus Reed." She looked across the lobby. Marcus was reading the annual report displayed on the table. Madison turned slightly away. "I know what he looks like from the magazine photos. This man doesn't have an entourage or anything." She listened. "All right, I'll tell him to wait." Upstairs, Evelyn Cross was standing at the head of a conference table reviewing a presentation her team had rehearsed for weeks. At 46, she had built Cross Atlantic Development into one of the largest urban construction firms in the Midwest. Her reputation was sharp, disciplined, and unforgiving. Business magazines described her as relentless. Former employees used colder words. She wore a white suit that morning, cut with such precision that it seemed to sharpen her movements. Behind her, digital screens displayed renderings of bridges, rail terminals, hospitals, and housing developments. At the center of the presentation was the Lake Haven Renewal Project. $1.2 billion. New transit lines. Affordable housing. Flood-resistant infrastructure. Thousands of jobs across neighborhoods that had been neglected for decades. Reed Meridian Capital would choose the primary development partner. Cross Atlantic was one of 3 finalists. Evelyn had studied Marcus Reed's public record carefully. He had grown up on the South Side. His father drove city buses. His mother worked in a school cafeteria. Marcus earned scholarships, studied civil engineering, and built his first company repairing municipal water systems in neighborhoods larger firms ignored. 25 years later, he controlled investments across 4 continents. He rarely gave interviews. He avoided publicity. He was known for visiting potential partners without advance ceremony because, according to one article, he wanted to see how organizations behaved when they did not know they were being watched. Evelyn had read that sentence. She had even underlined it. But at 9:10 that morning, when her assistant leaned toward her and said, "There may be someone downstairs asking for you," Evelyn barely looked away from the screen. Who? A Marcus Reed. Evelyn frowned. Marcus's office confirmed that his team would arrive this morning. The receptionist says the man is alone. Then it isn't him. She says he has an email confirmation. Evelyn looked toward the clock. Her legal team was waiting. Her presentation still needed revisions. The real Marcus Reed, she believed, would arrive with attorneys, analysts, and security. Have reception verify his identity, she said. I cannot go downstairs every time someone prints an email. Her assistant nodded. The meeting continued. Downstairs, 20 minutes passed. Marcus watched employees enter and leave. Some were greeted by name. Some were offered coffee before they reached the desk. A white man in a camel coat arrived without an appointment and said he knew the chief operating officer. Madison laughed at something he whispered, made one call, and personally escorted him to the private elevators. Marcus lowered his eyes to the annual report. On page 17, Cross Atlantic claimed that dignity was one of its core values. He read the sentence twice. At 9:34, Madison returned to him. Do you have identification? Marcus removed his driver's license and handed it to her. She examined it longer than necessary. Do you have a company card? He gave her one. The card was cream-colored, with his name printed in small black letters. Marcus E. Reed, founder and managing partner, Reed Meridian Capital. Madison looked at the card, then at Marcus. These can be printed anywhere. Marcus took a slow breath. Would you like to call the number? I already contacted the executive floor. And they are checking. She placed the card beside her keyboard instead of returning it. Marcus extended his hand. My card, please. Madison pushed it toward him with one finger. A security guard standing near the entrance had begun watching. Marcus returned to his chair. He could have ended the situation with one phone call. He could have contacted his chief of staff, who would have called Evelyn directly. Within 60 seconds, executives would have rushed down, apologies would have filled the lobby, and someone would have blamed a scheduling error. But Marcus did not make the call. Years earlier, before the tailored suits and private aircraft, he had entered buildings carrying toolboxes. He remembered receptionists assuming he was there to unclog drains. He remembered clients praising his white project manager for calculations Marcus had completed. He remembered being asked to use loading entrances while less experienced men walked through the front doors. Success had changed how people treated him only when they recognized the name. He had never mistaken recognition for respect. At 10:05, an elderly black woman wearing a gray housekeeping uniform entered the waiting area with a cleaning cart. Her name was Ruth Daniels. She moved carefully, favoring her left knee. When she reached the marble table, she noticed Marcus's empty cup. I can replace that water for you, sir. Marcus looked up and smiled. It's still full. Ruth glanced at the cup. They haven't offered you coffee? No. How long have you been waiting? About an hour. Her face tightened. That's not right. I have had worse mornings. Ruth gave a tired laugh. Me too. She wiped the table, then looked toward reception before lowering her voice. There's a cafe on the second floor. I could bring you something. You don't need to do that. I know. The simplicity of her answer touched him. Marcus studied her name tag. Thank you, Miss Daniels. Most people in the building called her Ruth without asking. Some called her ma'am, only when they wanted something cleaned. Her expression softened. You're welcome, Mr. Reed. Mr. Reed. Before she could leave, a young executive strode through the waiting area while speaking into a wireless headset. He stepped backward without looking and struck Ruth's cart. A bottle of blue cleaning solution fell to the floor. The cap broke. Liquid spread across the marble and splashed the executive's shoes. He stared down in disbelief. Are you serious? Ruth froze. I'm sorry, sir. You backed into. These are handmade. I'll clean them. You should watch where you're going. Marcus rose from his chair. She was standing still. The executive turned. He was perhaps 30, with carefully styled hair and a navy tie held by a silver clip. What? You backed into her cart. The man looked Marcus over. I wasn't talking to you. No, Marcus said quietly. You were blaming someone who did nothing wrong. The executive's jaw shifted. Madison watched from behind the reception desk, but did not intervene. Ruth crouched to collect the broken cap. Marcus knelt and helped her. You don't have to do that, she whispered. I know. He repeated her own words. For the first time. That morning, she smiled. The young executive glanced toward security. Madison, is this man supposed to be here? He says he has a meeting. With whom? Ms. Cross. The executive laughed once. Not loudly. That made it worse. Of course he does. Marcus stood. What is your name? The man's smile disappeared. Why? I prefer to know who I'm speaking with. Daniel Price, Vice President of Strategic Partnerships. Marcus nodded as though recording the information. Daniel adjusted his jacket. And you are? The man who saw you back into her cart. Daniel stared at him for another second, then turned toward the elevators. Get him out of the main lobby if he's still here in 10 minutes. The elevator doors closed behind him. Ruth looked embarrassed. I'm sorry you got involved. Never apologize because someone else behaved badly. She lowered her eyes. Marcus returned to his chair. At 10:42, his phone vibrated. His chief of staff, Lena Brooks, had sent a message. Are you with Cross Atlantic? Marcus typed back. I'm in the building. A second message appeared. How is the meeting? He looked toward Madison, who was laughing softly with another receptionist. It has been informative. He silenced the phone. At 11 o'clock, Evelyn took a break from rehearsals. She stood beside the conference room window, looking down at the city. Snow clouds were gathering over Lake Michigan, flattening the morning light into a sheet of gray. Her CFO, Thomas Bell, approached with a tablet. Reed Meridian's office has not sent the final attendee list. They will. We should call again. We have called 3 times. Thomas hesitated. There is still a man downstairs. Evelyn turned. The same one. Yes. Why? He refuses to leave. Has anyone verified him? Reception believes he may be misrepresenting himself. Then security should handle it. Thomas frowned. What if he is connected to Reed? Evelyn looked back toward the city. Marcus Reed does not sit in public lobbies for 2 hours. She said it with confidence. She did not understand that men like Marcus learn patience long before they learn power. At 11:18, the security guard approached him. Sir, I need to ask you a few questions. Marcus closed the report. Go ahead. Who invited you? Evelyn Cross. Do you have proof? I showed the receptionist an email. She says the meeting cannot be confirmed. Marcus opened his portfolio and handed over the printed message. The guard read it. The email clearly listed the date, the time, the building, and the executive floor. Could be fake, he said. It could. The guard seemed surprised by the answer. Marcus looked at his badge. Mr. Hollis, what would satisfy you? The guard shifted his weight. Maybe you should contact whoever arranged this. I could. Why haven't you? Marcus glanced around the shining lobby. Because I am learning something. The guard followed his gaze, but did not understand. I'm going to need you to wait near the entrance instead of the executive reception area. Why? Company policy. May I see that policy? The guard's expression hardened. Sir, I'm trying to be respectful. So am I. Their voices remained calm. That was what made the tension visible. Employees slowed as they passed. A few pretended to check their phones. Madison watched openly now. Ruth stood beside her cleaning cart near the corridor. Marcus closed his portfolio. Did I threaten anyone? No. Did I disturb anyone? No. Did I enter a restricted area? No. Then why am I being moved? The guard looked toward Madison. She gave him a subtle nod. Marcus saw it. So did Ruth. The guard lowered his voice. People are uncomfortable. Marcus looked around the lobby again. Which people? No one answered. For several seconds, the only sound came from the revolving doors turning below. Then Marcus stood, lifted his coat and portfolio, and moved to the chair nearest the entrance. He did not argue. He did not threaten legal action. He did not call anyone. But when he sat down again, something in the lobby had changed. The shame no longer belonged to him. At noon, Ruth returned carrying a brown paper bag. I brought you a sandwich. Marcus looked at it. You really didn't have to. There's turkey, lettuce, mustard. Nothing fancy. He accepted the bag with both hands. What do I owe you? Nothing. I cannot let you pay for my lunch. You can if I'm giving it to you. Marcus smiled. That sounds final. It is. She sat in the chair beside him, keeping one hand on the cleaning cart. Why are you still here? I have a meeting. After 3 hours? Yes. With Ms. Cross? Yes. Ruth looked toward the elevators. I've worked here 11 years. Ms. Cross moves fast. Sometimes so fast she forgets there are people beneath the glass. Marcus unwrapped half the sandwich. Do you think she is cruel? Ruth considered the question seriously. No. Cruel people enjoy hurting you. I think she's afraid. Of what? Of losing whatever she built. Ruth rubbed her knee. Fear can make people cold. Cold people stop noticing who they step over. Marcus took a bite. The sandwich was plain, slightly dry, and the best thing he had been offered all morning. Why do you stay? My granddaughter is in nursing school. That is expensive. Ruth laughed. That is an understatement. Does the company help with tuition? Only for full-time corporate employees. You are full-time. Not the right kind. Marcus looked at her. She said it without bitterness. That made it heavier. If this moment touched your heart, the narrator might have said, remember that kindness is often clearest when it comes from someone who has the least reason to give. But in the lobby, there was no narrator. Only Marcus, Ruth, a paper bag, and the soft scrape of snow beginning against the glass. At 12:26, Daniel Price returned with 2 investors. He saw Marcus eating the sandwich beside Ruth. His mouth curved. Still here, Marcus folded the paper around the remaining half. Yes. Daniel looked at Ruth. Shouldn't you be working? I'm on my break. Then take it downstairs. Ruth stood immediately. Marcus remained seated. Why? Daniel stopped. Excuse me. Why should she take her break downstairs? This is an executive reception area. She works here. Daniel gave a small, impatient sigh. Sir, whatever meeting you believe you have, you are creating a situation. Marcus looked toward the 2 investors behind him. Both men avoided his eyes. What situation? You are distracting employees. By sitting, you challenged one of our executives. You blamed her for your mistake. Daniel's face reddened. I'm not discussing this with you. Then don't. The words were not loud. They landed anyway. Daniel stepped closer. I don't know who you think you are. Marcus looked up at him. No, he said. You don't. For a brief moment, Daniel seemed to sense the depth beneath the answer. Then pride closed over it. He turned to Madison. Call upstairs. Tell them I want security to remove him. Ruth's hand tightened around the handle of her cart. Marcus noticed. It's all right, he told her. No, she said softly. It isn't. The second security guard arrived within minutes. This one introduced himself as the supervisor. He asked Marcus to leave the property until his appointment could be verified. Marcus checked the time. 12:41, nearly 4 hours. He could have left. In fact, part of him wanted to. Reed Meridian had 2 other finalists. Both had strong balance sheets. Both had competent engineering teams. Either could build the Lake Haven project. But Marcus had not come only to judge a presentation. He had come to judge the people who would be trusted with neighborhoods like the one that raised him. A company could write diversity into brochures. It could place Black children in advertisements. It could sponsor scholarships and publish annual reports about dignity. But culture revealed itself in unguarded moments. At reception desks, near service elevators, beside cleaning carts. Marcus looked at the security supervisor. I will leave at 2 o'clock. The man blinked. That is not your decision. I have written confirmation of a meeting with the chief executive of this company. I have committed no violation. If you choose to physically remove me, I will not resist. But you will need to make that choice. The supervisor looked at the email again. Then he looked toward Madison. Uncertainty entered his face. Wait here, he said. I have been doing that. At 1:03, Evelyn left the conference room to meet with legal counsel on another floor. She crossed the private corridor without seeing the public reception area. Her assistant, Claire, walked beside her, reading messages from a tablet. Read. Meridian still hasn't arrived, Claire said. Evelyn's pace sharpened. Call their office again. We have. And Their chief of staff said Mr. Reed is in the building. Evelyn stopped. What? She would not say where. That makes no sense. Claire swallowed. There is a possibility. Evelyn turned toward her. The man downstairs? I don't know. What name did he give? Marcus Reed. Evelyn stared at her. Did anyone scan his identification? Reception did. And they said the license matched the name. A thin pressure began behind Evelyn's ribs. Why wasn't I told that? You said it wasn't him. I said it was unlikely. Claire said nothing. Evelyn pulled out her phone and searched for the most recent photograph of Marcus Reed. The first image showed him at a charity event 5 years earlier. He was wearing glasses and standing beside a former mayor. The second showed him giving a university lecture, bearded and heavier. The third was more recent. Marcus stood at a construction site in a hard hat. Without glasses, his beard trimmed close. Evelyn enlarged the image. Her heartbeat changed. Where is he now? Claire looked down at the tablet. Still downstairs. For the first time that day, Evelyn cross-ran. The elevator seemed impossibly slow. As the numbers descended, her reflection multiplied across the steel walls. She saw the white suit, the perfect hair, the expression she had practiced for investors and journalists. None of it looked powerful now. It looked insulated. How long? She asked. Claire checked. Since 8:47. Evelyn shut her eyes. 5 hours. The elevator doors opened onto the lobby. Daniel Price was standing near reception, speaking with Thomas Bell and 2 members of the legal team. Madison sat rigidly behind the desk. Security waited near the entrance. And Marcus Reed was in the cream-colored chair beside the revolving doors, helping Ruth Daniels tape the broken wheel of her cleaning cart. He was kneeling on the marble floor. The billionaire client Evelyn had prepared an entire executive team to impress was repairing a housekeeper's cart while her vice president stood watching. Thomas Bell looked at Evelyn and whispered, "That man. In the lobby is Marcus Reed." The blood left her face. Marcus finished wrapping the tape, tested the wheel, and stood. Ruth saw Evelyn first. Her posture changed immediately. Marcus followed her gaze. The lobby fell silent. Evelyn stepped forward. "Mr. Reed." He buttoned his jacket. "Miss Cross." She looked around as though the correct words might be written somewhere on the walls. "I was told there had been confusion." Marcus glanced toward the reception desk. "There was no confusion about my name." Madison lowered her eyes. Evelyn's throat tightened. "You have my deepest apology." "Which part are you apologizing for?" The question was quiet. Every person in the lobby heard it. Evelyn looked at him. "For keeping you waiting." "Only that." Daniel shifted behind her. Evelyn saw Ruth's damaged cart. She saw the paper bag on the table. She saw the security guards avoiding Marcus's gaze. What happened? Marcus's expression did not change. "You should ask your employees." Evelyn turned toward Madison. The receptionist's face had gone pale. "He arrived without an entourage," Madison said quickly. "His appointment wasn't visible in the public system. We followed procedure." "Did you call my office?" "Yes." Claire spoke from behind Evelyn. She said she did not think it was the real Marcus Reed. Madison looked betrayed. "I was trying to protect the executive floor." "From what?" Marcus asked. No one answered. Daniel stepped forward. "Evelyn, this has been blown out of proportion." He was confrontational with staff. Ruth looked at him in disbelief. Marcus remained calm. Evelyn turned to Daniel. "What did he do?" "He inserted himself into an incident that did not involve him." "You knocked over my cart," Ruth said. Daniel's head snapped toward her. Evelyn stared at Ruth. "Is that true?" Ruth's fingers tightened around the handle. "He backed into it. Then he blamed me." Daniel gave an exasperated laugh. "This is absurd." Marcus looked at Evelyn. "Is it?" The word seemed to travel through the marble. Evelyn understood then that the billion-dollar contract had already been decided. Not by the presentation upstairs. Not by the financial projections. Not by the scale, models, or legal guarantees. It had been decided in the lobby while she ignored the man she had claimed to value. "Mr. Reed," she said, "please come upstairs. We can discuss everything privately." Marcus looked toward the elevator. "No." The refusal struck harder than anger. Evelyn's shoulders stiffened. "I understand that you are upset." "I am not upset." "Then please allow me to correct this." "You cannot correct 5 hours by moving the conversation to a nicer room." Employees had gathered along the mezzanine above. No one spoke. Snow streaked the tall windows. Marcus picked up his portfolio. "I came here to evaluate Cross Atlantic for the Lake Haven project." Evelyn lowered her voice. We are ready to present. You already did. Her face tightened. Marcus looked around the lobby. Your receptionist presented. Your security team presented. Mr. Price presented. Ms. Daniels presented. Ruth looked startled when he said her name. Evelyn's eyes moved toward her. Marcus continued. One of them showed me suspicion. One showed me obedience without judgment. One showed me contempt. And one, who had the least authority in this building, showed me dignity. Evelyn had faced hostile boards, lawsuits, labor strikes, and investors threatening to withdraw hundreds of millions of dollars. Nothing had prepared her for the stillness in Marcus's voice. The Lake Haven project is not a luxury tower, he said. It will be built in communities where people have spent generations being overlooked. I cannot place that work in the hands of a company that recognizes human worth only after reading a title. Evelyn's eyes burned. Mr. Reed, 3,000 employees depend on this contract. I know. Most of them had nothing to do with what happened here. I know that too. Then don't punish all of them for the failures of a few people. Marcus studied her. For the first time, something sharper entered his expression. Do you believe this is the failure of a few people? Evelyn opened her mouth. He gestured toward the annual report on the table. Your company says dignity is a core value. Yet your full-time cleaning staff cannot access the same education benefits as corporate employees. Your vice president humiliates a woman in public and no one intervenes. Security removes the person who objects. Reception decides who belongs by appearance. And your executive office dismisses a confirmed guest because he arrived alone. He paused. That is not a few people. That is a system. Evelyn looked toward Ruth. 11 years in the building, Ruth had said. Evelyn did not know her name until Marcus spoke it. Something inside her gave way. Not dramatically. There were no tears yet. Only the quiet collapse of an image she had held of herself. Evelyn had always believed she was different from the men who underestimated her early in her career. She remembered being the only woman in construction meetings, having her calculations questioned, watching clients direct technical questions to younger male employees. She had built Cross-Atlantic partly to prove that authority could look different. Somewhere along the way, she had become so focused on being recognized by powerful people that she stopped recognizing those without power. I was wrong, she said. Daniel turned toward her. Evelyn. She raised one hand. No, her voice trembled slightly. She looked at Marcus. I was wrong before you entered the building. I created an organization where people believed they were protecting me by keeping someone like you away. Marcus's eyes remained steady. Someone like me? A person they had already decided did not belong. The honesty cost her something. He could see it. But honesty after exposure was not the same as courage before it. Evelyn turned toward Madison. Why did you assume he was not Mr. Reed? Madison's eyes filled. I don't know. Yes, you do. Madison looked at Marcus. He didn't look like the photograph. Which photograph? The one from the business journal. He was wearing a tuxedo in that photograph, Evelyn said. Did you expect him to arrive dressed for a gala? Madison wiped her cheek. No. Did you question the white visitor who arrived without an appointment? Madison looked down. No. Evelyn turned to the security supervisor. What policy required him to move? The supervisor's face hardened with embarrassment. There wasn't a written policy. Then whose discomfort were you responding to? He did not answer. Finally, Evelyn faced Daniel. Did you tell reception to remove him? Daniel glanced toward the executives watching. I asked them to manage a disturbance. He was sitting in a chair. He challenged me in front of staff. You blame Ms. Daniels for your own carelessness. Daniel's voice lowered. Are we really doing this here? Evelyn looked around the lobby. Yes. He stared at her. You're humiliating me. Marcus's gaze shifted slightly. Evelyn heard the words and understood their ugliness. Daniel was not sorry for humiliating Ruth. He was offended that truth had reached him in public. You are suspended effective immediately, Evelyn said. His face went blank. You can't be serious. Turn over your badge. Because of him? Evelyn's expression changed. No. Because of you. Daniel laughed in disbelief. You're sacrificing me to save the deal. That would be convenient, Marcus said. Daniel looked at him. Marcus continued. But firing one man does not repair a culture. Evelyn closed her eyes briefly. He was right again. Daniel removed his badge and placed it on the reception desk. As he walked toward the revolving doors, no one stopped him. Outside, snow had begun covering the pavement. Inside, The building remained painfully still. Evelyn turned back to Marcus. I know you have no reason to trust anything I say now. That is true, but I am asking for the chance to do more than apologize. Marcus picked up his coat. Why? The question surprised her. She could have said because of the contract. She could have spoken about jobs, shareholders, reputation, or the communities Cross-Atlantic hoped to serve. Instead, she looked at Ruth. Because if you leave and nothing changes, then everything you said about us is true. Marcus watched her carefully. And if the contract disappears? The changes still need to happen. Do they? Yes. The answer came faster this time. Marcus looked toward Ruth. What do you think? The housekeeper's eyes widened. Me? Yes. Everyone turned toward her. Ruth looked uncomfortable beneath the attention. She rested both hands on the cart. I think apologies are easy in a lobby full of witnesses. Evelyn flinched. Ruth continued. Change is what happens after people stop watching. Marcus nodded once. That is a good answer. It's the only one I have. Marcus put on his coat. Evelyn's voice caught. Are you leaving? Yes. What happens to the Lake Haven bid? My board will make a decision Friday. That gives us 4 days. It gives you 4 days before a decision. Real change will take longer. He walked toward the revolving doors. Evelyn followed him. Mr. Reed. He stopped. I am sorry you were treated this way. Marcus turned. His face was not angry. That made the shame more difficult to escape. I have been treated this way in buildings much smaller than yours, he said. The difference is that your company wants to rebuild neighborhoods filled with people who look like me. Evelyn lowered her eyes. What would you do in my position? Marcus looked back through the lobby. Madison sat behind the desk, crying silently. The security guard stood apart. Ruth remained beside the damaged cart. I would stop asking what saves the deal, he said. I would start asking who has been paying for the culture you built. Then he left. The revolving door turned. Cold air swept across the marble. For several seconds, Evelyn stood facing the snow. No one approached her. No one offered reassurance. She had spent years surrounding herself with people who knew when to agree. In that moment, their silence felt like evidence. She turned toward Ruth. Ms. Daniels. Ruth looked wary. Yes. How long have you worked here? 11 years. And I have never spoken to you. We spoke once. Evelyn searched her memory. When? My 2nd year. You asked me to clean a conference room before an investor arrived. The answer struck with surgical precision. Evelyn nodded slowly. Will you come upstairs? Ruth's eyes narrowed. Why? Because I need you to tell me what I have not seen. Ruth looked at the private elevators. I'm not dressed for upstairs. Evelyn's throat tightened. Neither was Mr. Reed, apparently. For the first time, something almost like approval entered Ruth's face. She parked her cleaning cart beside the desk. All right. That afternoon, Cross-Atlantic canceled its rehearsals. Evelyn gathered department heads, contractors, security managers, reception staff, and maintenance supervisors in the main boardroom. Ruth sat near the far end at first. Evelyn asked her to move closer. The meeting lasted 6 hours. At the beginning, executives spoke in corporate language. They discussed communication failures, inconsistent guest protocols, reputational exposure, and opportunities for cultural improvement. Ruth listened for 20 minutes. Then she raised one hand. You're making it sound clean. The room went quiet. Evelyn leaned forward. What do you mean? You're using words that don't hurt. A human resources director shifted in her chair. Ruth looked around the table. Mr. Reed was treated like he was lying because he was a black man sitting alone in a good suit. Say that. No one did. Ruth looked at Evelyn. You want honesty? Yes. Then make them say what happened. Evelyn turned toward Madison. The receptionist had been invited but sat near the door, her face swollen from crying. Madison stared at the table. I assumed he was not important. Why? Evelyn asked. Madison's voice shook. Because he was alone. Ruth waited. Madison swallowed. Because he was black. The room seemed to contract. The security supervisor spoke next. I knew the email looked real. I still moved him because reception said people were uncomfortable. Why did that matter? Evelyn asked. He looked toward Ruth. Because I assumed he was more likely to become a problem than the people complaining about him. One confession opened the door to another. Contract cleaners described being searched after shifts. Administrative assistants admitted that visitors with accents were asked for more identification. A black project manager said clients repeatedly assumed he was a driver. A Latina engineer said executives shortened her name without permission because they found it difficult to pronounce. A disabled employee explained that the accessible entrance was often blocked by delivery vehicles. None of these incidents had appeared in quarterly reports. None had reached Evelyn's office. Yet all had happened inside the company she claimed to know. Near midnight, the room was nearly empty. Evelyn sat alone with Ruth. Snow covered the city below. The conference table reflected the lights like black water. "Why didn't anyone tell me?" Evelyn asked. Ruth leaned back slowly. "People did. I never heard it." "That's different." Evelyn pressed her fingers against her forehead. Ruth watched her. "You built a company where bad news gets cleaned before it reaches your floor." The sentence stayed with Evelyn. The following morning, every employee received a message from the CEO. It did not mention Marcus's wealth. It did not describe the lost contract. It began with 5 words. "Yesterday, we failed a guest." Then Evelyn deleted the line. It was still too clean. She began again. "Yesterday, a black man entered our building for a confirmed meeting and was treated as suspicious because of assumptions tied to his race, appearance, and lack of visible status." She described what had happened. She included her own role. "I was informed that he was waiting, and I dismissed the possibility that he was who he said he was. My decision allowed the mistreatment to continue." She did not call it confusion. She did not call it miscommunication. She called it prejudice. By noon, the message had spread beyond the company. Someone had recorded part of the lobby confrontation. A short video appeared online showing Marcus saying, "You already did," after Evelyn invited him upstairs to present. News outlets identified him within hours. Cross-Atlantic stock fell 7%. Commentators accused Evelyn of changing only because the mistreated man was wealthy. Marcus gave no interviews. Reed Meridian issued one sentence. "Our evaluation process remains ongoing." The silence was devastating. Evelyn's board demanded immediate damage control. Several directors suggested firing Madison, the security supervisor, and every receptionist on duty. Evelyn refused. "Accountability is not the same as finding the lowest-ranking person to blame," she said. Daniel Price was terminated after an independent investigation uncovered repeated complaints that managers had buried. But Madison remained employed. Under review, not because her actions were excused, but because Evelyn had begun to understand how organizations protected executives by sacrificing replaceable workers. Cross-Atlantic hired an outside civil rights firm to investigate hiring, promotion, security, vendor treatment, and employee benefits. Evelyn created no new slogan. She ordered no promotional video. She postponed the company's annual leadership retreat and redirected the budget toward tuition assistance for contract and service employees. For the first time, Ruth Daniels became eligible for the educational benefit she had helped fund with 11 years of labor. When Human Resources told her, she stared at the letter. "This is for all service employees?" she asked. "Yes. Not just me. All of them." Ruth folded the paper carefully. "Good." On Thursday afternoon, Evelyn drove to the south side without assistance. Reed Meridian's headquarters occupied a restored brick building that had once housed a public library. Children from a nearby school were leaving a technology workshop when she arrived. Inside the lobby, a young receptionist greeted her warmly. "Good afternoon. How can I help you?" "I'm here to see Mr. Reed." "Do you have an appointment?" "No," the receptionist smiled. "I can call his office." "May I have your name?" "Evelyn Cross." There was no hesitation in the young woman's face. No suspicion. No judgment based on Evelyn's tired eyes or the plain black coat she had chosen instead of her usual white suit. "Please have a seat, Miss Cross. Would you like coffee or water?" The kindness hurt. "Water, thank you." Evelyn sat in a wooden chair near a wall covered with photographs of bridges, community gardens, and apprenticeship graduates. She waited. 10 minutes. 20. 45. At 1 hour, Marcus appeared at the top of the stairs. He wore rolled sleeves and carried a stack of engineering plans. When he saw her, he paused. Evelyn stood. "I did not expect you to see me." "I almost didn't. That would have been fair." Marcus descended. "You came alone." "So did you." He looked toward a conference room. 10 minutes. They sat across from each other at a small round table. Evelyn placed a folder between them. "This is not a new bid." Marcus did not touch it. "What is it?" "Everything we have done since Monday. The independent review. Benefit changes. Complaint records. Security protocols. Promotion data. The names of board members who objected. You did all this in 3 days? No. We began it in 3 days. He opened the folder. Evelyn watched him read. The board thinks I am here to save the Lake Haven contract, she said. Aren't you? Partly. Marcus looked up. She did not hide from the truth. 3,000 jobs matter, she continued. The project matters. But you were right. I kept asking how to save the deal. I should have asked who had been paying for our culture. Marcus closed the folder. And what did you find? People whose names I did not know. People who stopped reporting things because nothing happened. People who learned that staying quiet was safer than being honest. Did you apologize to them? I started. There are more than I knew. Marcus leaned back. Outside the conference room, children's laughter moved through the old library hall. Why did you become a developer? He asked. The question surprised her. My father was a contractor. That is not what I asked. Evelyn looked toward the window. When I was 11, our apartment building flooded. The landlord ignored the pipes for years. We lost almost everything. My mother kept our clothes in garbage bags for months because mold was everywhere. Marcus waited. I thought buildings were power, she said. I wanted to be the person who decided which ones were repaired. And did you? I became the person in the highest office. That is not the same thing. No. Her answer was barely audible. Marcus studied her for a long moment. My father used to say concrete remembers every shortcut, he said. You can paint over it. You can hide it behind glass. But pressure finds the weakness eventually. Evelyn nodded. This week was the pressure. No. This week was the crack becoming visible. He pushed the folder back toward her. The decision is tomorrow. I know. I cannot promise you the project. I know. If Cross Atlantic loses, will these changes continue? Yes. Even if your board removes you? Evelyn hesitated. That answer required more courage. Yes. Marcus nodded once. Then you have finally begun presenting. The next morning, Reed Meridian's board met at 8. At 11:17, Evelyn received the call. She stood in the same 42nd floor lobby where Marcus had waited. The cream-colored chairs were still there, but the abstract painting had been removed. Not because the painting was responsible, but because Evelyn no longer wanted the space designed only to impress. Ruth stood beside her. Her granddaughter, Naomi, had joined them in blue nursing scrubs before heading to class. Evelyn answered the phone. Evelyn Cross speaking. Marcus's voice came through. The board has completed its review. She tightened her grip on the phone. We are not awarding Cross Atlantic the full Lake Haven contract. Her eyes closed. Ruth watched her face. Marcus continued. The risk is too high. Your culture cannot be repaired on a presentation schedule. I understand. However, the board voted to offer Cross Atlantic a limited partnership on the first phase. Evelyn opened her eyes. Why? Because 3,000 employees should not be reduced to the worst decisions of their leadership. She said nothing. And because Ms. Daniels sent us a letter. Evelyn turned toward Ruth. Ruth looked suddenly interested in the floor. What did she say? That a door does not prove anything when it opens for a billionaire. It matters when it stays open for everyone else. Evelyn's throat closed. Marcus's voice softened. The first phase will include independent oversight, community hiring requirements, full reporting access. One failure to disclose discrimination or retaliation ends the partnership. I accept. You should review the terms first. I will. But I accept the principle. There was a brief pause. Ms. Cross. Yes. Do not thank me for a second chance. I wasn't going to. What were you going to say? Evelyn looked at Ruth, at Naomi, at the reception desk where Madison now greeted a delivery driver with the same courtesy she offered executives. I was going to say we will earn it. Marcus was silent. For a moment. That is the correct answer. The call ended. Evelyn lowered the phone. Ruth studied her. Well, we received the first phase. Naomi covered her mouth. Ruth did not celebrate immediately. What are the conditions? Evelyn smiled faintly. You really did write to him. I had a stamp. What did you say? Enough. Then Ruth smiled too. 6 months later, construction began on the first Lake Haven transit station. Marcus arrived without an entourage. This time, no one had been warned. He entered Cross Atlantic's lobby wearing work boots, a dark coat, and a hard hat tucked beneath one arm. Madison looked up from the desk. For 1 second, recognition flashed across her face. Then she did something more important than recognition. She stood and greeted him exactly as she had greeted the delivery driver before him. Good morning. Welcome to Cross Atlantic. How may I help you? Marcus gave his name. She checked the schedule. Your meeting is confirmed. Miss Cross is on her way down. May I offer you coffee or water? Water, please. She handed him a glass. No trembling. No performance. Only respect. Across the lobby, a new tuition benefit poster listed every employee category, including contracted cleaning, food service, and security staff. Near the elevators, Ruth stood in a navy coat instead of her gray uniform. It was her last day. Naomi had graduated from nursing school, and Ruth had decided 11 years was enough. Marcus walked toward her. I heard you're retiring. I heard you're building a train station. Both rumors are true. Ruth smiled. Evelyn emerged from the elevator. She did not ask Marcus to come upstairs. Instead, she crossed the marble floor to meet him where he stood. For a moment, the three of them remained beneath the winter light. The billionaire who had been treated like an intruder. The housekeeper who had offered him lunch. The CEO who had nearly lost everything before learning what her company truly reflected. Evelyn extended her hand. Marcus looked at it. Then he shook it, not as forgiveness for what had happened, not as proof that every wound had healed, but as an agreement that accountability could become something stronger than shame when people were willing to remain inside the difficult work. Behind them, the revolving doors continued turning. Employees entered. Visitors left. A courier carried packages toward the desk. A young intern held the door for an older security guard. Madison pronounced a visitor's unfamiliar name slowly, then asked whether she had said it correctly. Outside, morning sunlight moved across the glass tower. The building looked the same from the street. But inside, Ruth's old cleaning cart stood near the service corridor with one repaired wheel wrapped in a strip of silver tape. No plaque marked it. No one had placed it beneath a spotlight. It simply remained there, catching a thin line of sunlight each time the doors opened. A quiet reminder that power had once passed it without looking. And that kindness, offered by someone the world had taught itself not to see, had finally forced an entire building to open its eyes.